groove. And I mean, that's when I was like, no, that's not a camel. That's my wife. Oh, what a classic joke. Oh, we're live? Of course we're live, guys. Welcome to the Collective Podcast.
What's up?
We're glad to be back with you guys. We had a little bit of calendar technical difficulties, whatever we had going on yesterday. Normal broadcast time is 3 p.m. on Mondays, but we weren't able to make it.
Not throwing me under the bus.
I'm graciously saying that we didn't have somebody on our staff that had scheduled over the podcast time. Wink, wink. Oh, oops. Big oops. It's actually my fault for not planning ahead. But, guys, we are live right now. The Collective Podcast, where we hope that you guys can use this to serve you in your search through God's Word for knowledge and wisdom that you can take into your daily lives and in your relationships with family and friends around you. So feel free to like, share, subscribe, all of the good stuff that every other podcast YouTuber does at the start of every video. Per usual.
Give us a big thumbs up.
Give us a big thumbs up and hit that notification bell because subscribing doesn't do anything anymore. I'm just kidding.
Welcome to my channel.
Welcome to my channel. That's my best Riley hair interpretation.
No joke. We tried to get her to do that at the beginning of Collective Live this week.
Yeah.
She has the whole speech like memorized. Like, hey guys,
welcome to my channel.
Get started. That's good stuff. She doesn't even have a YouTube channel.
Come on, man. We got to get her on.
I know.
We got to get her rolling. Got to start. We're here for the kids.
Yeah.
We're here for the youth, right?
Right?
Collective youth.
That's right.
But guys, we are live, so I can switch. I have something else on my iPad right now, but I can switch and I can see your comments in your chats. So feel free to do anything, say anything you would like down there, as long as it's appropriate. And we'll go ahead.
Say it to your grandma.
If you wouldn't say it to your grandma, don't say it in the Collective Youth YouTube chat. Scroll wheel. I don't know what to call it. But
scroll wheel?
Yeah, guys, we have with us again this week, probably the most anticipated of the year, Brandon. Brandon's been on a couple times. So Brandon is with us again because Brandon delivered an awesome message this past week on Collective Live, our Wednesday night programming in this COVID-19 season that we're going to continue into the future. He delivered a message kicking off this brand new series titled Graves into Gardens. I didn't forget what it was called. I was trying to think of how to tie in.
Did you almost want to say Gardens into Graves? Because sometimes I want to say that.
Sometimes.
And I feel like it's counterproductive.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to say the Chris Brown special from Elevation Worship and Stephen Furtick, Graves into Gardens. No, that's a church out in they wrote a song, this church, Elevation Church in Charlotte. They wrote this song called Graves into Gardens. And in this song, it has a lot of imagery in it that has... Like you turn bones into armies, you turn seas into highways, you make beauty from ashes. These things that are like, oh, those are cool like images that we think of in our head.
Yeah.
But each one of them has like really deep biblical significance and things that I think I can take a lot from it. And so I'm super excited for this series. And Brandon delivered this message. But first and foremost, before we dive into everything, Brandon, I have a question.
Okay.
It's life or death.
All right.
What's your deal? All right, we're done.
Oh, that was okay.
That wasn't it.
Go
but
ahead.
The question is, what's your favorite place that you have ever gone for vacation?
That's a hard one. It's actually a really hard one. Now that I was kind of thinking, I was going to say one thing, and then I was thinking, but there's this other one, but then there's these two more.
Yeah.
And so I got to say, if I could only pick one, and I'm not going to, I won't tell you the other three. You can find out what the other three are for me if you want to chat, but I don't want to take up too much time here.
Yeah.
We went to New Zealand last February.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was awesome. I mean, like, so cool. Like,
that's cool.
The coolest part's actually flying into it because it's like you can see all of it, and then it's just, it was awesome. We went there for my sister-in-law's wedding. Yeah. And it was awesome.
That's super, super cool. Yeah. And a lot of life in New Zealand.
Yes.
Everything is green.
And no natural predators. So you can
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so you can
impressive.
just like go for a run.
Yeah.
And not have to fear getting eaten by a mountain lion.
Welcome to Nebraska.
Not that that's really a concern for me here either.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's awesome. We're gonna try and add some more of those little funny, goofy things at the beginning of each episode. Not that New Zealand is funny or goofy, but it's a little bit funny. It's a little bit goofy.
Hobbits live there, so.
So, Brandon, do you want to give us a quick rundown of your message that you gave in last week's episode, kicking off this series, Graves into Gardens?
Yeah, for sure. I, like you said, the song has so much biblical imagery in it, and talks, like you said, about bones and armies and seas and highways, beauty for ashes, and we're going to talk about all of those things over the coming weeks. But this week, we really kind of leaned into what that title actually means, like Graves into Gardens, because as I was looking at it, I feel like just the title there has like this depth of irony
Yeah.
to it, you
Yeah.
know. Like usually it's one or the other. Like you can't really have both.
Yeah.
Because graves are places of death. They're places of decay.
And
They're gross. Like if you
Yeah.
every scary movie or thriller at some point someone ends up in an empty grave and it's gross, right? Like it's just how
it's not a place where you want to be.
No, and then on the other side of that, you've got this idea of a garden which is like full of life, full of vibrant colors and pleasing aromas and things that are completely counter to what a grave has. And so I think, you know, if you look back through scripture, the way that graves worked back then, it kind of makes more sense because they didn't really bury people like they do now. They kind of put them in these caves and rolled stones in front of them. And so a lot of times they would put spices in front of the tomb or plant stuff. And even our graveyards now, like if you go to a graveyard, people go out and put flowers on graves. But it's still not the same thing, right? It's still not a garden. It's like there's a vase, and those flowers are going to die, and someone's going to come back. And so just this idea of graves into gardens for me is like the concept that it doesn't matter how distant from God you feel or how dead your life seems, there's always a potential for new life. And God can actually take our worst moments, the moments we feel the most dead, the most broken, and actually bring new life into that scenario and not just recover what was lost, but make it so much better than it was even before.
Yeah.
You know?
Man, that's super, super good. Yeah, and you had a couple awesome sayings, guys. This episode, or the episode of Collective Live that aired with Brandon's message, is on YouTube. Should be one of the last videos that was uploaded on this channel. So go ahead and check back on that and check that out. It's a short message, but it's an awesome message to kick off this series. And guys, we're going to dive into every one of those biblical images that are in there. And I actually have the privilege of delivering a message this coming week on one of the first ones. You turn bones into armies.
Can't wait to hear you talk about zombies.
Oh, it's pretty much, if you've seen the movie World War Z, that's what we're quote Brad Pitt for about 2 hours.
Actually, Zayne's just going to play that video, that movie. Be like, all right, here's the message
just
tonight.
Brad Pitt running to a helicopter.
Just gonna hit
no, I don't like these armies. It's bad armies, gross armies. But yeah, so in your message, you kind of had this image and told this story, and maybe you've heard this Bible story in the past about Elisha telling this man very weird image of to just take these arrows and hit them on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of I'm not giving the full story because we're going to dive in that together. But Elisha doesn't really give this man an understanding of why and about what would happen after it, and about but it takes place in this nation of Israel. And Elisha is a main figure in this story that you talked about in your message. And so do you want to kind of talk about the significance about the whole thing, about hitting some arrows on the ground and about trusting and about whatever that kind of played into in your message?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll read this. I'll read the passage real quick.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is Elisha is the prophet of this nation, and they know that they can go to him and for help, and they're being invaded by this army. And so the king goes to Elisha and he basically says, like, hey, we're surrounded. There's no hope. We're done. What do I do? So Elisha tells him to shoot an arrow out the window, and he does. And Elisha's like, that's the arrow of victory, and then it goes on. And he says, he said, take the arrows. And this is 2 Kings 13, starting in verse 18. Then he said, take the arrows. And the king took them. Elisha told him, strike the ground. He struck it 3 times and stopped. The man of God was angry with him. So Elisha was angry with the king and said, you should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. Then you would have defeated Aram and completely destroyed it. But now you will defeat it only 3 times. And so basically what I read from this is like this nation was invading Israel. Elisha says, hey, strike the ground with the arrows. The king strikes it 3 times. And Elisha's like, yeah, hey, good job.
Good job,
You're
dude.
like, what? Why'd you only do it 3 times? And I'm like, well, you only really told him to do it once.
Yeah, you only said hit the ground.
Strike the ground. You didn't say strike the ground multiple times. And so I'm confused by this. Like, for me, if someone says, hey, do this thing, and I do it 3 times, like I feel like I'm overachieving a little bit.
Hey, man, give me some slack.
So,
give me a little props.
Elisha's like, you didn't do that enough times. And I'm wondering why, like, how the king was supposed to know that.
Yeah.
And so part of me and my human side of me is like, I don't get that, and I feel like this guy got slighted a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this nation invades, they defeat them, they invade again, they defeat them again, they invade again, they defeat them again, they invade again, and they lose time.
Yep.
And so it's like, I don't get it at first, but then as I think about it, I wonder, I wonder what that says about my own heart sometimes.
Yeah.
The fact that I don't get it makes me kind of exactly like this king, right? When God says, I need you to do something, is my first inclination to go all in?
Yeah.
Or is my first inclination to do just enough to get by, or even just enough to get by plus a little bit so that God will think I'm all in, when really he's like, no, I know your heart.
No. Yeah.
I see your motives here. And you are like, this king was literally doing enough to get by.
Yep.
And you can read about the king in general beforehand. And just, he wasn't like a God-fearing man, and his only connection to God was through Elisha. And I think that we see this king's like, okay, well, I mean, I'll do what you asked me to do. Like, but like, how committed are you to doing what God's asked you to do? Yeah. Are you committed enough to like look foolish in front of people? Mm-hmm. And so when Elijah's like, strike the ground, like somebody who's really all in, who's like, I'm desperate for a move of God, is just going to keep going until God says otherwise. Yeah. So strike the ground actually meant like, dude, strike the ground and you just keep on doing it until there's a But he didn't. He just did it 3 times and he's like, oh, is
all right, now what?
Enough? And I think like for all of us, like we've got that story in our life, right? Like think about school, you can pass with a C. People will think you're smart if you get people will think you're really smart if you get a B+.
Yeah.
But most of us, if we go all in, we're capable of so much more.
100%.
And I think that's what God is challenging us all to through this story. In fact, one of my favorite Bible stories is Jesus' first miracle in John, when he turns water into wine. Mm-hmm. And he says to these men, like, hey, go fill these jars with water. And the story tells that they go down and they fill these jars to the brim, like fully. Mm-hmm. And that's not what Jesus said. He didn't say like, hey, go fill these to the very tippy top. He's just like, hey, go get me some water, And yet these people, unlike this king, they filled it to the top. And this was a big deal. Like striking the ground with arrows, not hard. Yeah. Okay. Filling up ceremonial jars to the tip top.
They were not just jars.
And carrying them half a mile. They would have weighed 400 pounds or something like that is what
they would have been crazy.
And so like filling jars with water, carrying them half a mile, like that's all in. Like that's what it means to be all in.
Committed.
And Jesus saw that, and these guys get to be part of a miracle that took place, And I think that those are our 2 options, right? Yeah. Are we like this king who's like, yeah, okay, I get, or are we like these guys who are like, let's go all in, let's fill it to the brim, let's give everything we've got, and that's what a life with Jesus looks like, and 100%. That's what he calls us to.
Yes, that's good. That's really, really good. And super significant in our lives today, I think, as well. We can take a lot of, wherever we're at, personally, myself, you guys watching, we could take a lot from that and learn to live it out in our lives. But pretty quickly after that story takes place, you touched on again, Elisha just dies.
Yeah, the very next verse, actually, he's like, you'll only defeat them 3 times. And the very next verse says, Elisha died and was buried.
It's just, boom, literally. Like I was trying not to make it too obvious, like too... It's like right there. Like as soon as it happens, he's died and he's buried in this cave. Yeah, right.
And I still wonder like how much time has passed. Is that like that very second? Like, you'll only defeat them 3 times.
Gone.
Yeah.
But he dies. He's buried and he's thrown into, or he's died and he's buried. But buried is different than what we have today.
Right. He's in this cave.
He's put in this cave, and then later another man who is this Israelite who is unnamed. This army is invading again, and he dies. And so they see this army invading, and they're like, "Gotta get rid of this guy." And they toss him into the cave, the same cave that Elisha was buried in. We don't know who this man is, but we know that as soon as he touches Elisha's bones, he jumps back to life. Yeah, he's filled with life, and it's like crazy to think about that this man is dead. But guys, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about dead things being made alive. And we know that Elisha was a prophet. He was filled with the Spirit of God. He spoke on behalf of God. Prophets, that's another topic for another day, but they weren't just future tellers. They spoke the authority of God. They were God's mouthpiece to the nation.
He was the physical representation of God to the nation of Israel.
Exactly. And so this man is dead. touches his bones while he's dead and is immediately brought back to life. And so let's talk, I don't know if you wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about like that, speaking to the miracle working power of God and the power of God that lives within people, that even when they've been dead, another man touching their bones, like God is able to work through that to bring life. Yeah. And then also later in the story, later in the Old Testament, in the book of Ezekiel, we see that Ezekiel is another prophet who is given this vision, and I'm going to touch on this too, how this story ties into Ezekiel's vision of this valley of dry bones, and God bringing this entire valley that's covered in bones to life immediately, bringing them to life, putting flesh on their bones, and creating an army. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how this like speaks to God's miracle working power, and kind of how that tied into your message.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, this Elisha was the physical representation of God to this nation. So for all intents and purposes, Elisha was God. He signified the presence of God. Wherever he went, like people would recognize that about him. And so like that changed over time. Like Jesus came and was that for us and died for everybody. And now we have that, like Jesus lives within us, and that's not exactly how it worked then, you know? Yeah. And so for Elisha, like, I think what we learned from this story is that, that like we said at the beginning, God brings life out of dead places. And the way that life comes out of dead places is by having that close proximity to God. And so, like we said, this Israelite man died. His friends, probably his family, went out to the countryside to bury him. They were going to give him a proper burial, put him in a tomb, and all that good stuff that proper Israelites did back then. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they see this nation, these Moabite raiders. That says so. It's just basically just bandits, you know, like, hey, let's go steal some stuff. They're coming in to do that, to steal things and rough these guys up and whatnot. And so they're like, we need to get out of here. From Star Wars. Yeah. So they're like, we need to get out of here. And they're like looking around. They're like, that one. And so they literally just toss this guy's body into another tomb, and probably with the intention of like, let's just stash him, and then we'll come back and finish all this. And because it was a big deal, like, and
they probably didn't even think like, oh, Elisha's buried here.
No, they were just like saw an accessible cave, I think, and we can talk about whether that's coincidence or God's provision providence, and providence, and I, we know which side I'm on that side of it, but
me too.
But they saw this accessible tomb, and they're like, let's just toss him in here, and we'll come back and take care of the rest later. So they do that, and then I like, this is not in scripture what I'm about to say. It's just my like imagination spinning some stories. I like to think that like they did that and then they left, and then like later on they're just like walking around town, and this dude's like, oh, hey guys, what's up? Like he's back. And they're like, what happened? He's like, I don't know, but I woke up on a pile of bones. Because like I said, Elisha was the representation of God's presence. And so they took this dead guy and they put him really close to God's presence, and bam, life happened. And I think that's what it is in real life. Like if you're feeling dead, if you're feeling disconnected, I bet if you look at how much time you spent trying to get yourself closer to God, like it's low. If you're feeling like you're full of life, like there's this beautiful kind of like time with God, how alive I feel. And it works just like a perfect, positive correlation, if you will, like boom, science.
All right. We're not in school yet, Brandon.
I mean, it's like the more time you spend with God, the more life that your life has.
1,000%.
And so this guy, like literally thrown into the physical presence of God, what happened? He came to life.
Back to life.
And
physically.
It's this surprising story, but it shouldn't be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be as crazy as it sounds.
Yeah. God literally touched somebody. He came to life. Easy
peasy. I mean, it's not like it never happens again later in the Bible. What? Hint.
Like multiple times?
Multiple? Like a lot of the time, like anytime God wants it to happen? Yeah. I mean,
so I just think that, we look at some of these stories and we're like, what? That happened? Or we're like, no, that totally makes sense. Like that checks out.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense in accordance to God's will, and what he says he will do, he does. Yeah. And so, I think that ties really well into what I'm going to kind of talk about. Actually, tomorrow night on Collective Live at 6:30, I'm delivering.
Be there.
Well, it's going to be awesome. We're going to be live. There's fun games. There's stupid games. You get to watch us embarrass each other. Yeah. And then I'm going to...
like Dope or Nope was super fun.
Dope or Nope was so
like,
fun.
No, that's dope. And everyone's like, no,
beard,
it's not. Like,
beard hat, like wool beard hat. Winter beard hat. It's the best.
I was a big fan of the metal detecting sandals, but I was alone in that, I guess.
It kind of looked like like, what do you call them? That when you get out of jail.
Oh yeah, the ankle monitor.
Yeah, ankle monitors.
I'm pretty sure it was with a little wire, like it was fake.
It's like, no, I promise I didn't get arrested. I'm looking for gold coins.
I need some doubloons.
Yeah,
So,
but guys,
man, I'm really looking forward to that message tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite passages of scripture. Like,
oh gosh,
that
now I'm
prophecy,
nervous.
so-
Now I hope I did a good job.
Yeah, if not,
If not, this is my last episode. I want to say thank you guys for watching. But guys, it's a story of Ezekiel, another prophet from God, who's given this vision of this valley. He's taken from God to this valley where the entire floor is covered in dry bones, covered in the same bones that Elisha would have been whenever that man touched them. And God brings them to life over this period of time, and what that means for us and what that means for our lives today, like especially in COVID-19, especially in this time when the world is like, it seems like it's about to explode and catch on fire. We all feel like we're dead. We feel like we're dried out. We feel like this king that won't be able to trust God or trust the plan. And so how do we look at this? How do we revive our lives with the presence of God? And then how do we bring other people back to life? Right. How do we give that to other people? And
I think that's a great, I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited to hear it.
I hope I do a good job. Please.
I hope you do too. I'm going to be really bummed if you don't.
I think I do, but I'm a little bit biased.
Maybe a little.
My mom will watch and she'll tell me if I do good or not.
She will actually, but she'll only tell you if you do good.
She'll only tell me if I do good. If I don't hear anything, then I know I did bad. But
cool.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Can't wait to see you guys tomorrow night at 6:30 at Collective Live. And every single day, every single Monday through Friday, we have daily devos that are posted early in the morning, and that follows our Calvary reading plan. Right now, we're in we're in Galatians. Yeah, we're in Galatians, and the next week I think we start Ephesians. And so
Ephesians is so good.
Oh my gosh, I mean, all of them are so good. I know this Thursday I'm the one that did the fruit of the spirit, so I got off on the easy one. That's a little bit like, don't do these things, do these things, and you'll be all right.
Boom, check.
So guys, every day, Monday through Friday, daily devos are posted, and then tomorrow night at 6:30 we'll catch you guys at Collective Live, and then next week another episode of the podcast with me and Brandon. So thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Real quick, tell them though too, the big announcement that happened on Wednesday night.
I don't know.
You don't remember the big announcement that happened on Wednesday night? You said it.
Oh yeah, the comeback. What the heck am I thinking about, dude?
I don't know. You were
my
you
brain
were
is
the promo video.
I am the comeback.
Wow.
Oh, hey guys, come on.
Hey, if you don't know what the comeback is, you should find out. Calvary.ch/youth. Sign up.
Yes.
It's time for a comeback.
100%, guys. It's gonna be epic.
Which is great. Graves in the Gardens, like
exactly.
It's just been on our hearts.
It's
like
building
the
up.
Comeback
Man.
has
it's
been
building up. We're building Graves into Gardens, and then we're gonna hit that comeback August 2nd through the 5th. We're gonna party hard.
So.
Yeah. All right, you guys. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.